Hi, this is Team Native. I'm Destiny.
I'm Ashley.
And I'm Maya.
We're going to be showing our screencast for iteration 8, the final iteration, where we incorporate the GUI and yeah.
Great. So I'll start with part 1. This is the semi-sieve GUI demo. So to start, I'll just do Gradle semi. And so the GUI popped up immediately. As we can see on this sidebar, it's the red player's turn. So I'll move the red settler down by 1 tile. So now you can see the move left updated. So if you were to try to do an illegal move, for example, change the blue player, it shouldn't allow you to do that. So it doesn't even let me move it. So now I'm gonna demonstrate how we can change the turn. You just click on this turn shield here. And as you can see, it's now the blue player's turn. So I'll move the blue player to the side. Now you can see the moves left updated to 0 again. So if I try to do an illegal move, it should snap right back and not let you do that. Okay, and now one last thing, if I would end this turn, the year that signifies the end of a round since both players have gone, so the year should change. And as you can see, it went from 4000 BC to 3900 BC. Another functionality that we want to show is the show set focus. So that just sets the focus on a city or a player. And this panel should update to show the stats of that. In order to do that, you have to shift click. So for example, I'll start with shift clicking on the Legion. So as you can see, the unit showed that it is a blue player and it has 1 move left. And now if I were to shift click on this top red city, you can see the city shield shows it as red. It produces archers and its focus is food. Similarly, if I were to click on the blue city, it shows that the city is blue. It also produces archers and the focus is food. You can also perform the unit action at the settler here, just clicking on it, and it changes it into a city. Okay, so that was part 1, showing the demo for semi-sieve.
And so the next part we're going to do is testing our set focus tool. So we're going to run the show set focus to individually test that tool. So to do that, okay, so here, as we said earlier, set focus is the set the focus on a tile. So when we click on a unit, it should tell us how many moves are left and who owns it. And we do that by shift clicking. So we're going to shift click through these units and see the set tile focus tool in action. All right, it's owned by red, 1 move left. Blue, 1 move left. Red, 1 move left. And for our UFO, red and 1 move left. And we just want to clarify that when we run our hot sieve, this would have 2 moves, but since this tool runs on step game 2, the moves for all the unit types are hard coded to 1. So, yep, that's it for our set tile focus.
All right, so now we're going to be moving on to the third section of the screencast, which is set focus tool code. So I'm going to go through that a little bit here. So as you can see, this is our set focus tool. It extends the selection tool that was already implemented in MiniDraw. So a lot of our functions call upon the super, it calls upon the selection tools, constructor and mouse down function. We just added our necessary code for us to work for this iteration. So going into the mouse down function here, we have our unit. This is getting the unit from a specific position that you click on. Once you have that unit, we check to see if it's null, and that if the owner equals the player that's in turn. So as Maya demonstrated in the GUI, if you try to select on a blue player and it's the red player's turn, you will not be able to move the unit, or you won't be able to see its stats. So once you go in, if both conditions are true in the if statement, we use the super mouse down function. Also, if you select shift down and press the player, you'll see their stats show up on the side panel. This is the perform unit action at when you click on a player at a position XY. And we're going to show you now where we call this perform unit action at in the stub game. Just gonna real quick. Okay, so going to stub game 2. So as you can see, this is the perform unit action at. This is where we call our game observer. So the game observer then implements the tile focus change at function, which takes in a position P. And then going into the game observer we use for this, that is sig drawing. So this is our tile focus change at code. So right now we just get the unit out of position. We get that city out of position if it is a city. We check to see if this is a unit or a city. If so, we clear the panel. So we clear what's already existent in the panel. And then we redefine the stats based on the unit that was pressed. So if it is a unit, so like a red archer or a legion, it'll create the panel to involve the stats of that legion or archer. If it's a city, it's going to implement the stats for the city. So that's the production, the type of units that it produces, things like that. Okay, so that ends the third section of the screencast. Now we're going into the fourth section, compositional tool. So I'll also be going over the code for that. So this is our compositional tool. Similar to the set focus tool, it extends an already implemented class in MiniDraw. This in turn is the unit move tool. So this tool essentially is just combining all of the tools that we had in this iteration. So that's our unit move tool, our set focus tool, our end turn tool, action tool, and it calls upon all of them based on when we need them. So going into the constructor here, this is where we set all of our tools. So if you can see this .unit move tool calls on our unit move tool. Same with the focus tool, end of turn, and action tool. So going into our mouse down, this is when we actually call upon those tools that were defined in the constructor above. So if you can see here, for example, with our end of turn, in this if statement, that's when we call the turn shield to change. That's the panel. It'll change to either red or blue, depending on the player in turn. Also going down here to some of more of our if statements. So this is that shift click action. When you shift and click on a unit, you'll get the stats in the side panel. So if you're moving a unit, so this is when you select unit to move to a different tile, that'll call our unit move tool. End of turn tool. So in this case, we actually implemented the end of turn tool in the sig drawing game observer. So that is why that's commented out now. We just call the game.end of turn, and that'll call upon our game observer, which we'll call this end of turn tool. Then we have the is refreshing. So that is if you press the refresh button on the side, that'll perform the request update action. And then lastly, we have the set focus tool, which we went over in the previous section of the screencast, where if you click on a unit, you shift click on a unit, it'll show the stats. Okay, that is ending the fourth section of our screencast.
So now we're going to go over part 5 of the screencast, which is describing any additional debugging that was performed while we tested SemiCiv. So I'm just going to talk about this really quickly. The first step that we did was we used the compositional tool on the test stub. So this helped us see all of the tools working without the complexity that our game impl had. So we were able to understand it a little bit more. And then once we actually implemented the game impl, we used our transcriptions to make sure that all of the functions that we wanted to be called were called. And then additionally within the tools, our best debugging method was to print to the editor bar using the editor.showStatus function. And then within game impl itself, we had a few errors where we weren't calling the game observer in places that we should have been, or we were calling it too many times, which caused a few issues. So that was the debugging methods that we used.
I believe that's it for iteration 8 for Team Bad Civ. Thanks for watching.